pleased to introduce you to our first speaker. He's the president and founder of ESI Tech Trans, Inc. He's been in international sales, marketing, and business development for over, I'm going to say 30 years. I need my glasses. Should have known this. He's been in international sales, marketing, and business development for over 30 years. More than 50 European companies have benefited from his establishment and business development experience and insights. He currently serves as its chairman of the board and CFO over there at ESI Tech Trans. He's also VP of Pure Gas Solutions, LLC, a developer of renewable energy biogas upgrading plants for 10 years. He has held the position of senior advisor at Invest in Sweden agency, stationed here in LA, the Swedish government agency with a mission to stimulate direct foreign investment. His involvement in the Swedish-American community includes co-founding and serving for 3 years as president of the Swedish-American Chamber of Commerce in Greater LA. He's the past chair of the Culver City Chamber of Commerce, LA. He served on the Culver City Advisory Committee on the redevelopment and chaired the Culver City Finance Advisory Committee. He's also served as chair of the Culver City Unified School District and Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. And he is now a council member of the City Council of Culver City. So please help me to welcome Göran Eriksson.
Thank you. With that long list of different things, I'm sort of already dated that. I'm sort of way up there in age. It's a pleasure to be here. I remember when I went to university, and as you see, born in Sweden, so there is a slight accent. It's not Texan, it's actually Swedish accent. So I got a master in science, actually computer science and electronics in Sweden at Lund University. That university is one of the largest in Northern Europe. It's about 50,000 students at the campus, and they have all the different faculties, you know, medicine, business, culture, everything. It's a big university town. So it was really fun to go and grow up there. And then I came to the US in 1983 for the Swedish government. That time worked for the Science Office of, well, the Office of Science and Technology, which sort of was interesting. Decided to stay, and at university I actually the biggest thing I got at Lund University in my education was actually I met my wife. So that tells us how long we've been a team, and that is sort of interesting. I'm going to go into sort of ESI Tech Trans, and Britta is going to talk about Eurobattery Fund and those. And it's sort of interesting. ESI is working with European companies who wants to trade into the United States, and Eurobat is primarily working with American companies who is trading into Asia and Europe primarily. I've also got convinced by my old university that I should pay back. Since I found my wife there, they felt I had a big debt to pay the university. So I became convinced that I should help them start a foundation here in the US, and I've been the chair since 2010, as the chair of the Lund University Foundation. So we are building up the alumni network in the United States and raising money for certain projects. So, and then of course I've been involved in the Culver City civic life for quite some time, and got elected to the city council last year. So it's been a year now, and that's one thing that I would like to bring to you, is that, you know, work is one thing, but it's also very important to have something else that you have a passion for, you really like, because you never know when that's going to come in as a value in your work life, and you never know when your work life is going to provide a value to your civic engagement or other type of activities. And I think that at the City Council we actually have a strategic goal that we are working on now, is that we trying to figure out how to encourage young people to get engaged in different type of civic organizations, because there is a little age difference there. You see a lot of these organizations that you have heard about for many years seems to get older and older, and there is not that much of new people coming in and stepping up, and they have an important function in our society, both pure service organizations to different type of political organization and so on. So don't sort of write that off. That is part of growing up and making our society better. So it's not just work, it's also the other side. So Jerry asked me to talk a little about the City Council. What that means, it's in Culver City, it's a volunteer work. We actually, we get paid. We get paid $482.11 a month. And I probably spend about 20 hours a week on city matters, some on the weekend and a lot evenings and daytime. It's in Culver City. Culver City is a full service city. So the buses, for instance, that you see go by here, that they are ours. That is actually, we manage that, and that falls under the City Council. So it's not just sort of what you think of as governmental agency projects, but you know, we run the trash, we run the buses and so on. So it's really interesting when you get in. If you have a business experience, it actually makes it in some cases a little easier, because you sort of have this sense for what we call these enterprise funds, these separate companies within the city administration. So it helps. So, and I think it's important for business people to get involved in politics. So it's not just the policies, because they have their background and their interest, and I think there is sort of a value to have people from different type of backgrounds, different type of experience engaged in politics. So I usually joke that on our City Council we have 5 seats. The seat I'm sitting on is at large, so there is not each district, but we have had a European on that seat for the last 25 years. So I jokingly say I'm on the European Union seat in Culver City. So there was an Italian, and then there was an Irish, and now there's a Swede. So, but let's move over to ESI Techland. So established in 1984 when I got out of government, and it's an international business development consulting firm. So and actually when I look now, if I include US clients also, we have over the years, many years, we have worked with about 100 clients that we have assisted in small matters to large acquisition companies and so on. And for the last 7-8 years, I primarily has been focusing on clean energy, clean tech, environmental issues, because in Europe, in some areas, it seems that they are way ahead of us. And there is a lot of interesting technology and knowledge that can be brought over here, and we can sort of jumpstart US to get moving forward in a lot of areas. So I've been working on renewable energy and waste to energy projects. And that actually came about as a consulting work, where they came to our firm in 2005 and said, hey, we need some help, and the government was involved, wanted to promote some Swedish-oriented businesses here, and we started work with that, and one thing led to another, and now I'm sort of vice president of a subsidiary here in the US, Pure Gas Solutions, which is a Swedish subsidiary, and we slowly building. We have an office in Chicago and one here, so slowly building that organization. So you never know how, what's going to happen. So never burn any bridges. never been rude to anyone, always been polite, always answer questions, always be, careful. Sometimes you feel like, man, that's a jerk. I don't want really to deal with that person. And that's fine, but you don't tell them that. You politely sort of, because you never know when that relationship actually can come back and either hurt you or be of value. So that's, never been rude, never be rude. You don't have to be. You can be very polite and still sort of deny to work with certain people or certain companies and so on. That's important, because one thing that is going through the whole business aspect here is, it's your values. You control your values, you control your moral. No one else does that. That's you. And don't sort of discount that, or sometimes, okay, I'm going to squeeze a little here because, no, you stay true to yourself. That's very important. Especially when you start working with international organizations, because then you're going to have a lot of culture issues that are going to come into play. And everyone is going to try to read you from their background, if they're French or Italian or Australian or coming from Burma or somewhere. They're going to read you from their perspective, right? So therefore it's very important that you really stay true to yourself, because it can become very complicated very quickly. So just talking about some, this is how the old model was when you were going to start going international, right? You could try to find a distributor in the international market that you were heading for, or you could find a sales agent, license, branch office, joint venture, or you could start your own subsidiary. And all these are still valid. So the old model still is valid, it's still there, but there is a new model. And as I said, the earth is flat. So it's a global market from day one, and your home market is not necessarily your geographic area, it's your flat screen. And this is really important. This is last 10 years that this has happened. So when you start any business, you are exposed to the whole world. Day one. You need to be prepared to handle requests or suggestions or whatever from other countries. You need to have a strategy. Okay, we're not going to do anything for 2 years because we're not ready, or we're going to start immediately, and then you need to figure out what you're going to do, and Britta is going to talk about that because she sees that every day. But I think that we are in a shift, so we have both these models and they are both valid. So it depends on a little about your product and the market you are focusing on, if you use the old model or if you use the world is flat model. And then I'm just going to give you a few of these. So we're talking about companies coming into the US, and over the years, things that always surprise me when you hear senior executives and they express sort of some thoughts or views of what it means to get into the US market. Just to tell you this, so one very common thing is that, okay, we're going to go to this big trade show, and we're going to have a booth there, and then everyone will know that we are here in the US. Well, that is based on the coming from a small country in Europe or in Asia, where that is actually true, because there is 400 companies exhibiting at the trade show. Well, in the US, you go somewhere and you have 2,500 companies. No one notices you. No one has a clue that you even were there. And this is sort of one of those culture differences where you see my experience coming from one country where the market is a certain size, and then getting into the US, it's totally different. And that leads into the next thing, is that so many times I heard, well, we signed up with a distributor in the US, so we're done. You know, and there are some sort of concepts that has been developed by economists at different universities, that you can actually split this market in about 22 different segments, and they are all not interfering with each other, and for certain products. So this is another of those misconceptions. So it's important, if you get into working for a company that are international or going to go international, and you help out, that you have these in your back head all the time. This person on the other side of this email or this phone line, where are they coming from? You know, how does their country look like? What does the market in their country look like? Because that's going to be how they perceive, and that's going to be what they use to make their decisions for this market. So it's really important, and this one, I really like this one, right? So, and this is true. I've had people telling me this. And if we go way back, it was sort of Dallas, which you've never seen, but anyway. That was sort of, they all know who Ewing was, you know, the nasty guy there. And they knew exactly how business was done, because he was running this oil company, right, in Texas. And this actually, this paints a picture abroad how we in the US are operating and what we're doing. So, if you would only see Jerry Springer and you would come to the US, you would actually act a certain way because you think that's how it's done in the US, right? So this is actually very important, is to realize that the image that is out there, and it has nothing to do with business, but it's sort of, it's a cultural image that a lot of people actually subconscious are using when they make their decisions, and your job is to be aware of that and then try to sort of slowly make it into a more realistic picture of what this country is about. Start in Delaware, that's another one. Most companies get advised by the big firms here in the US to start in Delaware because it's easy for the law firm to do it. They can do it all online, and there is some corporate structure laws in Delaware that actually has no application if you start your subsidiary here from any country in the world. But and you should really think about, you want to start your business where your customers are. How many customers are there in Delaware? You know, it's so that's another of those misconceptions. You see a lot of foreign companies actually establishing their headquarters in Delaware. At some point, maybe they should move there for tax reasons and corporate management reasons, really, because Delaware laws gives management more power over the shareholders than normal. But it's another one of those name issues. Now with the global market, how many names is there really available in the world for a certain product? Right? So this is a big problem now. They have companies that establish in the local market somewhere, and then they want to go somewhere else, and the name is already taken. So if you intend on starting a company, any company, you should really do a fairly thorough search before you decide on names if you intend to go international. We have no competitors, another one of those, because in their country they don't have any competitors, and therefore they think there is no competitors here. But you know, there is always one competitor, and that is that the customer decides to do nothing. They don't have to buy, even if you have the best mousetrap in the world. So there is always one competitor, and usually there is other solutions in the market. You know, the problem has existed. The market has figured out another way to solve the problem. So that is really important, is to realize that when you bring a product from one country to another, there is always competitors. We talked about the cultural differences, and then I would say that it's really important if you're looking at foreign trade and other markets. And so for companies coming into the US, that it's really important for them to find local experts and actually engage with them. So that's a good market. You know, there's a lot of consulting firms. They hire people and they train them, and that gives you a good start, and then you can branch out from that. You know, you can go to the company you really would like to work for, because now you have a resume and you've shown that you can do things. So there's a lot of those companies, and you learn a lot there. So that's one thing to think about. So that wraps my 20 minutes up about, yeah. So, questions. Okay, we start down here.
Hello, Mr. Eriksson. My name is Mishat. Just to verify, you say you got a degree in computer science and electronics. And you're currently in civic engagement. So, can you talk a little bit more about that transition?
Yeah, well, first thing, so my master degree is actually, I think the formula is electronics and computer science, because you know what? My degree is 1982. So at that time, computer science was sort of barely starting, right? So, all computer classes was within the electronics department, so that's all. Yeah. But, well, the civic comes from my parents, really. So my parents were very engaged, and I remember as a kid sitting, helping my parents sort receipts, because my dad, he was sort of a treasurer for more than one association and things like that, purely voluntarily. And I remember on Sunday sitting there sorting receipts, you know, when I was 10, and you know, he did all the computations and whatever. So it really comes from there, and then at the university, I sort of got a chance to really get involved in that. I was very involved in student politics at this university. And that sort of, I realized I was good at it. So that's really what it is. But, you know, the degree, my engineering degree has helped me a lot. Right now, what I do is very little, you know, transistors and or chips and what my really education is all about, right? But the process and the, you know, what you got taught to think logically and so on, that has helped me tremendously. And I still can do percentage faster than my wife. Yes?
So, my name is Sophia Sanlas. You talked about civic engagement. I know LA County has some of the lowest voter turnout in the country. From what I've seen, is it's a distrust of politics. If you agree, how do you see remedying that? And if not, what would be your solution to increase voter participation among youth?
Well, that is why we started this project in Culver City, right? That we want to get more civic engagement. I think with LA, it's a size problem to start with. I think today also with the social media, we sort of, people jump on the social media and they express something and then they go do something else. And then you have a core group who's sort of pushing, and everyone else feels I don't have to do anything. So I'm not sure that social media actually is helping us in getting more civic engagement. It's almost like you go on there and say, oh, it's only 50 people who have said the same thing as I do, and they seem to be on there all the time. Well, I don't have to go there anymore, you know, continue my thing. So, but what we believe in our city, which is small, is that we want people to get engaged, and when they get engaged, we hope that we then can get them to you know, talk to their neighbors and friends and get more engagement. But if you know, we just had a French presidential election, right, with voter participation twice the US. Well, not our presidential election, but one thing that sort of is a big difference is that here in the US, I go and vote at least 3 times a year. In my home country, Sweden, they vote one time every 4th year. So, you know, I think that has a little play here, is that, you know, another vote, and you look at, so, okay, college district directors. Who are they? I have no idea. Judges, a whole list of judges, you know, I never heard the names and so on. And you have these happening 3 times a year. It's fatigue, you know, it's like, okay, I vote next time, or I don't. But in other countries where they only vote once every second year, third year, fourth year, it becomes a big thing. So that I think is one reason. But you know, go and ask your poli-sci people about the rest. I don't know. You know, we're trying to increase it in our little city. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Carlos Torres. All right, you said never be rude. Now, does that stem from past experience? And if so, if yes, do you mind elaborating on that?
Yeah, that's way back at student union. I remember one time where when I was a chair and we had a board meeting and it was a little testy. And I took the gavel because I got so mad, right? So I took the gavel and I threw it in the middle of the table. It bounced and up in the floor, and the person who was sitting on the other side almost got hit by it, right? And I had to sort of live that up for the rest of my students. Even at the end, when you leave student, there is the student newspaper writes poems about it. And even there, they sort of, what they said, like Thor, you know, the Viking god, like Thor, the hammer, he sort of, yeah. So that was one time when I realized that, you know, yeah, well, it wasn't that good. Yeah, we had someone up there.
Hi, thanks for coming to speak with us this morning. My name is Ryan. Going back to the business side of things, what tips or recommendations would you have for a college student thinking about starting a business here in LA, particularly in e-commerce?
Well, that's really going to be what my wife Britta is going to talk about, because we deal a lot with that, with startups in e-commerce. So, you know, one of those, you know, do your homework, and she's going to tell you why. It's really going to be important. So I think we're going to let Britta start. I don't know who's going to. Oh, there. So thank you, and you know, I'm sure I'm going to hang here a little afterwards if you have questions that you didn't have a chance to ask. So.